What is up, Nerd Nation? It's your boy Hunter from Film Nerd TV, and tonight we are doing an all-spoiler discussion of the new 2018 movie Searching, starring John Cho and directed by
Anish Shaganti.
Anisha Gante. And as you guys has heard, I have somebody joining me. It's Russell Howell. Russell, how's it going, man?
Good, man. I'm glad you decided to have me on. When you were messaging me about trying to come on for this show, I really wanted to because I really wanted to talk about this movie. I really enjoyed the film, so it was an opportunity I really wanted to utilize to talk about everything searching. So yeah.
Yeah. So since we didn't really do a non-spoiler review first, why don't you get the non-spoiler stuff out of the way, give your rating, and then we'll dive deep into spoilers.
All right, this is just kind of I'm just going to set the movie up. I'll let you, like, the people that haven't seen this film, go check this one out. The review I'm going to give you real quick, pretty much is just a basic Cliff Notes version of the film. Okay, so we see Johnny Cho's character plays a character by the name of David Kim. David Kim has recently lost his wife. You see that at the beginning of the film. They start setting up where it begins. Everything on this movie is shot strictly on you. You're following it along on the computer.
Mm-hmm.
So you see the basic struggles that him and his wife and daughter are dealing with. You see that they are scheduling chemo sessions, they're scheduling doctor's appointments, and then home visits. Well, right at the end of the scheduling, it has Johnny Cho's character scheduling his wife being able to go home, and it's set
Yeah.
on specific date, and they delete it. Obviously, meaning that she didn't make it. The cancer has taken her life. So now he is a single father. His daughter, we have seen through the pictures, has grown up. She is in high school. She goes to school, and we can pretty much see that they have a good relationship, but they don't because of the fact that they don't talk about the mother. They don't talk about the elephant in the room, so to speak. They are trying to wrestle. They're trying to wrestle with emotions, and David Kim's character, Johnny Cho, pretty much feels that not talking about it, I think, is going to help Margot, Michelle Lou's character, Michelle Lou or La. I have it scribbled on there. Michelle Lou or La plays Margot. That is his daughter in the film. And we start to see things start to unravel here at the beginning of the film. Again, I'm not going to go into spoiler talk right now. I'm just setting the table here. So we see that they pretty much kind of don't communicate like father and daughter should. He is calling her and pretty much trying to ask, what's going on. And she says she's at a study group, and that's pretty much that. All right, so then we see that at the middle of the night, Margot has tried to call her father a couple times. He wakes up to a couple missed calls and a FaceTime message. So he starts texting her just like he normally would during the day. Doesn't get anything back. He's texting. He's like, okay, blah, blah, blah. Hey, you didn't take the trash out like you said you were, blah, blah, blah. What's going on? And nothing has been text back to him. So finally, he starts to panic, just like any parent would, and ends up trying to call the police, trying to say, hey, he wants to report a potential missing person. He hasn't heard from his daughter in X amount of time, that he's been trying to get a hold of her. So they end up, assigning Deborah Messing's character, Detective Vic, to the case. She is a renowned detective. She's like really, really good at what she does. You see, like she's like taken pictures and done all sorts of things where she's done some good work. So he's in good hands. So that's pretty much when we start to unravel different things throughout the film. So it's pretty much David Kim's character and Detective Vic trying to help each other out to try to figure out what is going on, where is his daughter, what could have possibly happened. So that's pretty much that in a nutshell. I really don't want to talk anything spoilers, just because I want everybody that's listening here to go check this film out. This film's terrific. One of a unique 2018 film, and it's really one of those thrillers and put you on the edge of your seat the whole entire time. I know the whole entire time I was so engaged in the hour and 42 minutes this runtime is in the film. You're engaged the whole entire time. I thought Johnny Cho gives a great performance. Usually we see him, it has Harold and Kumar or something comedic and stuff like that. It's nice to see him step back from the comedic aspect of things, come into a little bit more of I would call this a dramatic thriller, just because of the fact that he's able to step out of his comfort zone acting wise. But that's basically the gist of the film. Is they set that up where his daughter's missing. Detective Vic and him really just start working hand in hand to try to find out what happened to his daughter. And they start finding little clues here and there, and it just ends into a big puzzle at the end. So that's the basic gist of the film. Overall, I gave this movie 5 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed this film a lot. To me, when you can get engaged in a film and submerge yourself for an hour and 42 minutes, and it feels like that, you're doing something right. The unique way it was shot, kind of how like Unfriended and other movies were that weren't so successful. This one was successful. It was beautiful how it was shot. So like when they're like Googling things, they actually were able to use Google for the movie. I had read somewhere. Everything was authentic, and that's what makes it feel so real. That's why the movie worked. And that's basically the movie in a nutshell. Cliff Note version, spoiler free.
Okay, awesome. I'm gonna give my non-spoiler review real quick. Walking into this movie, I did not know what to expect. I saw the trailers and I was like, "That's a very interesting premise." You know, using a thing that the director called Screen Life, I believe. Um, so you see what's on the computer. You see him using webcam, FaceTime. I walked into this movie not expecting much, and I walked out really enjoying this movie. This is probably will be in my top 10 of the year because, as you said, Russ, the time flew by. And that's because you're always trying to guess what happened to Margot, what happened to his daughter. And as the character, is it David?
David Kim, Johnny Cho's
yeah.
character.
When David gets the clues, you're getting the clues, and you're both really trying to piece it together. It's not like it, like the audience knows who it is, the characters don't. You're really there with David's character through the entire movie, the twists, the turns, everything like that. The acting is fantastic.
It was nice, like I said, to get Johnny Cho some love, and Deborah Messing's always good in anything she does. She's been in a bunch of romantic comedies, and obviously we know her from Will and Grace, the television show.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything's engaging, and that's the great thing about this film.
Yeah, and it keeps the audience engaged in the story. That's why the time flies by so good. Again, the acting is fantastic. The story premise is engaging, really, really emotional at points too, because I'm not a father, but you are, so it may have hit you deeper than maybe me, but John Cho really brings out that character of a loving dad.
Yeah.
And kind of overbearing, but you kind of see why he's overbearing, especially at the beginning of the movie. Yeah. So overall, I absolutely love this movie. I'm going to give it a 4.9 out of 5 stars. So, okay, that's our non-spoiler review. If you haven't seen the movie, click off now. You know our thoughts. Spoiler alert. Now we're going to go into what we loved about this movie and some things that might have not worked as well, but all spoiler alert. So, Russ, why don't you start with the things that you loved about this movie?
The thing I love about the movie, again, was just the uniqueness to it. It did something that those other horror movies couldn't do. Unfriended and other movies that were just shot. I believe the other one, too, the Unfriended, the second one was shot strictly on the laptop or whatever. But this one just was more authentic, I think. It felt like, we're going along for the ride along with the characters, and that's the beauty of the movie. We're learning things as they're learning things. We don't know. We know exactly what they know. We're moving exactly at the same speed. We're right here. We're even killed the whole entire time. And I think that's the beauty of it, because we, as an audience, are discovering things as the characters in the movie are discovering things. So we're moving all at the same speed. I like that. I like the pacing of the film. Everything about the film just works. It just, it's earned. Everything that they put in the film, anything that comes up again, they've put in the film, so it's earned. It's not one of those things out of left field. And I respect the movie for that, and I respect the movie that, like I said, makes an hour and 42 minutes blow by.
Yeah, definitely.
Really engaging film.
So let's start the spoiler discussion by going through the opening of the movie and then kind of talking about parts like that. The opening, as you said, and one thing I do love is when the movie starts off, you can tell it's kind of an older time period because they use an older Windows computer.
Yeah.
Which is something I noticed in the background. It's like it's an older Windows computer. It's got the old start button and everything like that. And one thing I love about what this opening scene does is it gets you happy, and then it hits you with a gut punch immediately opening with, you know, the photos going in and out of, Margaret and Pamela, I believe her name is, right?
Margot, I don't know her name. I know Margot and David or Johnny Cho and
it's Pamela or Pam.
Yeah.
You see them playing the piano together, and then you see that piano come back around. She's playing the little computer when she's sitting in the hospital, and then you see the photo get moved down, and it's for a funeral service, which I was just like, gut punch immediately in the film. So this was a great way of like getting the audience captivated with the family and getting, the setup out of the way.
Yeah, it's a faster way to do it and get attached. I think Up, I can kind of not compare it to Up, but Up was the one that kind of did that.
Yeah.
To me, it sets the table. You see everything in there. You see a snapshot of Margot growing up real quick. You see that Johnny Cho, David loved Pamela, and they loved. They had a good relationship together as a family. You see that. But then you also start to see kind of like a split almost, because you see, Margot's character has an attachment to her mother that obviously David doesn't. And that ends up playing, you kind of end up seeing little ripples in the water there after her death with them not talking about it, opening up about like the grieving process, losing a loved one like that, and just letting life kind of just go without talking about the memories of Pamela.
Yeah. And I do like the use of the grade photos, like Margot in first grade, and then goes fourth grade, and you still see the mom. She's looking kind of ill still. And then it's high school, and you know what happens. You just see David and Margot, and you don't see Pam because, the cancer took her. And like if you notice, like it starts off all smiles, and then they're still smiling in the high school photo, but they're you can kind of see the separation happening.
Yeah.
In that moment right there.
Yeah.
So then we go into present day. Hold on. Yeah. So Margot leaves to go to a study group, which she tells David will end around all night.
She said it's going to be all night because he thinks it's not going to be very long. But she's like, yeah, you know what? It's probably going to be longer. It's probably going to be most of the night or whatever. So don't wait up for me, pretty much kind of thing.
Yeah. And then he brings up the trash. He texts her the trash that hasn't.
Yeah, she's still staying at the house, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
And yeah, he had said to her that just because, again, it shows you the communication between the two are just, it's just not the greatest. We see that, he is kind of playfully joking around saying, oh, you said you were going to take the trash out. She's like, don't worry, I'll take it out tonight or whatever. It'll get done, so don't worry about it. And he was kind of playfully bantering around about it, but yeah.
Yeah, and then while David's asleep, am I leaving? No. While David's asleep, he receives 3 calls attempts from Margot, and then 2 FaceTime. Wakes up the next morning and tries to get a hold of Margot. Can't get a hold of her. And then he starts going down the fact that, which, hold on, before I get too far, I do like how he pretty much used the granddad attempt of getting into the
Oh, the computer. You mean
the computer, or it's like, okay, I don't know the password, but I'm gonna go through Gmail to get it. I don't know the Gmail password, but I'm gonna go through the Yahoo account.
yeah, but he ends up getting it. It's the funny thing, you know.
Yeah, somehow he ends up getting it.
Yes.
And then we find out that Margot had dropped out of her piano lessons and was well,
It was
she was
$100
spending
a
the money
lesson.
to herself.
She
They
was keeping that
said,
money for herself. We see later on. We see accounts, transactions that come back later that are $100 a pop, I believe. And she just kind of he just kind of thinks that, oh yeah, his daughter, because he's so out of touch with what's going on. That's what we're
mm-hmm.
seeing. He's going out of touch. They don't communicate. And that's why, like, that would be something that, hey, dad. And I think the reason why I think they said about it was the fact that she didn't want to disappoint him, I guess.
Yeah.
The piano was something that you see, they set up kind of how you mentioned before. You know, how they mentioned before about, like, you know, that was something that the daughter played a lot. So yeah.
Yeah. But then we have David trying to figure out what happened, of course, discovers a site called Venmo. Is that how you say it?
Wait, what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
I was talking about when he discovers that she's transferred the 2,500 of saving the $100 from the piano lesson to Venmo.
Yeah, it was some kind of online, like, account, banking account or something like that, which they, as they're investigating, they're worried that that has something to do with her disappearance, obviously with the money and stuff like that. So it gets you, the audience, thinking different things.
Yeah, and after that, David decides to contact his brother Peter. And then Peter suggests that maybe she left for a road trip.
Yeah, so that's when that also plays hand in hand with when he pretty much starts investigating the contacts on her on, I believe, her mother kept Pamela kept the list of, like, all these contacts and stuff like that. And
that plus he was able to get into her Facebook account, so he kept. Which, again, I forgot to mention this because this does come back later. When he starts investigating the teens, you know, her so-called friends, they're like, you know, she was a loner. We didn't really, like, we weren't really friends with her. Even the girl's house that she went to for the
study thing, yeah, they weren't really the closest of friends. Yeah, and again,
she said something like she wanted to get into Berkeley. That's why she was over there studying with her.
Yeah, we see that, like, obviously Margot was gifted academically, but when it came to the friends department, she really didn't have a whole lot of friends. We see things where she sat by herself at lunchtime and stuff like that. And it's kind of funny because this is kind of true and it resonates. I like the scene when she's disappearing, when she has disappeared, and all these people speak up about how they're close of friends and stuff like that, because that's true as, like, something like that would happen today. It's so valid today.
You know? Yeah, and I was about to get to that too when we do find out it is disappearance, and, like, everybody's on Facebook like, oh, she was my closest friend, blah 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 blah. When you realize that that's all bullshit.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to get the media attention, especially the same girl that was doing the
study group.
She made a YouTube video about it, which gained, like, thousands of views.
Millions of views, yeah. And it's all fake because we knew the reason, her intention to have her over the study group was self-gain. It was to get into a college of her choosing. That's the only reason why she invited Margot's character to the study group. So we see the fakeness of people. And it's funny because it's, like, valid, though. It really is. It's like,
that is very true.
You always see that on Facebook and stuff like that. Like, people that haven't talked to somebody for a long time, they want to get that Facebook attention by posting, like, you know, oh, we're really thinking of you. You know, you're such a great person. If, like, somebody gets sick or somebody passes away, or you know, they want to get that popularity. They want to share that popularity with the people, and it's so messed up and twisted, but it happens, and that's why the movie makes it work out.
Yeah, but then we get to David calling up the police department and the person assigned this case is Detective Rosemary Vick. So she asked David to give her all the information that he has saved up in a very organized, was it like Google spreadsheet or whatever?
Yeah, he has everything organized, and the thing is, how he sets it up. David sets it up by going through all the contacts again. He has all these contacts and phone numbers of people that, like an address book or whatever that he goes through. So he starts contacting one by one and asks, pretty much sets up a spreadsheet asking where they were on the night of her disappearance. Had they talked to her, blah, 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 and everything's all organized. So he has all this information that he gives to Deborah Messing's character, Detective Vick, in the film to kind of help her jumpstart the investigation. And he feels that, and really, he's doing above and beyond a lot of things.
He's doing more than Vic is in some cases.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like he is kind of going above and beyond. Normally, I mean, obviously, I know, like, if something would ever have happened to my daughter, I'd be doing anything and everything.
Oh, yeah.
We really start to see the investigative skills of David's character in the film. And yeah, so Detective Vick pretty much just tries to take all the information that David can give her and, try to build a case out of it, try to figure out what the heck happened to his daughter.
Yeah, and then they find Detective Vick comes in and finds a fake ID that
they find out that the ID she had been using was a fake ID or something like that.
Under a brand new name.
Yes. So we start to see, it's like a Gone Girl type feel.
It is.
Is she picking up and just moving on with her life? And they try to throw that out at you as the audience. So you're sitting there like, okay, wait a minute. So she didn't have many friends. We see all this money that she had saved. Could she really have gone to start a new life? She's trying to wrestle with the emotions of her losing her mother. Maybe,
and it all makes sense too. So you're in the theater, like, thinking that could be the case.
Yep.
Which is actually funny that you bring up Gone Girl, because there's actually a little snippet where it's like, did Margot go all Gone Girl on us or something like that, like a little news piece. So I found that pretty funny. And then she made a suggestion, of course, that maybe nothing happened to Margot, but maybe she just ran away for different reasons. Once was just maybe she just often left. The other one was maybe she was dealing drugs. That was another one.
Because of the fact that, and you see earlier in the film that we didn't talk about earlier in the film, it was introduced that Johnny Cho's brother, which would be Margot's uncle, smokes weed, pretty much as a stoner. And so we just kind of see that. So we think that maybe, so maybe, maybe she has gotten associated with the wrong crowd, and maybe she's doing drugs now. Maybe there's something she owed somebody money or something. Like, there's all sorts of possibilities in this film that are running around in your head.
Yeah. And then as he's searching on Margot's computer, he goes to what's it called? Your most searched webpage or whatever.
Your history, your I think, is it your viewer history?
No, it's like
not your favorites, but the most visited websites.
Most visited sites.
Yeah.
And finds a site called Ucast.
Yeah.
It's a video blogging, like, live stream app.
Which people use to kind of document life and talk about, like, their problems via like a journal, bringing people along with you for the ride of this conversation. Trying to reach out and connect with other people, I guess,
Yeah, and with that, he finds out that his daughter has, like, started having one of these accounts, and going through the video, she's talking about how, like, her home life, she's not really liking it because her father doesn't talk about what's the most glaring issue, which we even see one with her on the bed, and John Cho's character, David, comes in. He's like, it's because it was her mom's birthday, correct?
I think so. And I think he came in and asked her if they were going to watch The Voice or something.
Yeah, he was, she knew that it was her mom's birthday, and he came in, he was like, there's something that I want to say, and then you see him thinking about starting to talk about the mom,
Yeah.
but instead he was like, the voice comes on tonight, are we going to watch it?
Yeah. The
So
finale,
he keeps
whatever.
pressing back that issue.
Yeah. And it's just a lack of communication he has addressing that issue. He doesn't know how to approach that situation with his wife dying, Margot's mom dying, and yeah, it's something that we keep seeing stick its head up.
Yeah, and then as he's searching each of the videos, you start to see the exact same name come up on the side because you can like write comments and stuff.
Yeah, we see a name by the name of Fish and Chips in the chat. Pretty much keep talking about things, but the thing that we see is Fish and Chips is knowing a lot more than we see. That we see there was a lot of
Which is
we start to see like because he kind of says about, oh yeah, I lost my mom to F cancer or whatever.
Yeah, fuck cancer.
Now they have this kind of commonality, this bond that Fish and Chips tries to start with Margot's character. So we see something brewing there. We see this person is commenting and liking on a lot of all of her videos. So we start to see this may be a lead. This may be a potential lead. So this
and then another thing that you notice is like they're starting to get closer and closer because in her mind she thinks that it's a 20-year-old girl from somewhere. We'll get to that in a little bit. But
Pittsburgh, yeah, it was a 20-year-old waitress in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then of course David admits to Vic that he realizes he didn't know his daughter as well as he did. Vic keeps telling him, you didn't know your daughter that well, but you knew her good enough.
Yeah, basically
it wasn't your fault.
Yeah, it's not your fault. I mean, what happens after you're out of the control of your child is pretty much out of your hands. You can only hope that she does the things that you kind of laid groundwork down as a parent. And whatever happens really is just, it's out of your hand. It's out of your control. You can't control what happens when your child leaves out of your care. And, and that's the scary part. It's the scary reality everybody faces as a parent. Me, not so much because my daughter's 3, but still, when your children are older, there's obviously that sense of, they have to have that freedom, and, you don't know what happens when they're out of your care or out of your sight. So,
yeah. And then Vic goes into the story. I think it's right here where she goes in the story about her son stole $25 from a woman, or said it was for
said it was for like a police type of charity.
Yeah, it was like
blue something.
Yeah, kids. Oh my God, it's like kids with
some kind
something blue.
Some kind of organization set up to help cops, retired cops, or something like that out, or some kind of cops, or something to deal some aspect of law enforcement. Yeah, we see that he has been kind of scamming money from that moment, and that's something that ends up playing again. Little clues that you don't see when you're watching the film, but this one ends up coming back because of the fact that Deborah Messing's character just says, we as parents always cover for our children, so she obviously didn't want him to get in trouble with that, so they pretty much kind of swept that under the rug and just kind of covered it up that he did donate it to.
Yeah, and she said that she was the one who created the foundation.
Yeah,
thank the woman for the donation or whatever. So as he's looking through all the videos, he goes through it again on Ucast, realizes that Margot could be at this one location because they set up
they set it up. Yeah, they set it up basically. She has this place that she goes to. It's like almost her like quantum of solace, so to speak, where she can just kind of go, relax, unwind, and she posts something in the title of it. So Johnny Cho's character ends up typing it out, finding out it's this like wooded area that's actually relatively close to where they're at. I think it's only like a handful of miles away from where they're actually at.
And then like they set up like camera angles because I believe she sends him the tapes from the recordings outside.
The highway
cam. The highway cam.
Cameras,
And you see her getting gas and then going in that direction, and that direction was happens to be where she did the videos. It was called
But at the
uh,
but at the beginning,
Barcelona Lake.
yeah, but at the beginning they assumed that she went opposite the way that she lives. So she went opposite, like away. So at the beginning of the film, Deborah Messing, and even Deborah Messing was like, yeah, she might have left town because she's leaving. And Johnny Cho puts it together that it's really away from where they live. It's completely the opposite direction. So that's where that idea of did she really run up and run away to start new? Because she literally left the opposite way
Yeah.
you would go. So that's kind of that at the beginning. You kind of start thinking that. And then they end up piecing it together that they see her getting gas, they see her making the turn, and Johnny Cho puts it in and saves it into his, like, his not his contacts, but his the map area where you can save things on your phone or on your laptop, and he pins it as this is the last location. This is Margot's last known location. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's doing all that, and then he sends this information to Detective Vic, who gets a search crew out there to search the entire area to search. But she does say that there's one area that they've already searched.
They've already searched the one area because it's the one area in the immediate where the water is and everything like that. They've already searched that area, so they are taking the crew, the volunteers and crew that are actually trying to help in the investigation, try to find the search and rescue team, pretty much all around the wooded area because there's just so much wooded area in that area that they need all the volunteers that they possibly can to try to help find Margot. So that's what we see. We see a pretty much like a diagram of all the areas that they need to try to cover, which is a large area.
And after that, they find Margot's car. It's submerged underwater.
Yep.
They find the $2,500 that's untouched,
and we see and we see a jacket from a Finns team, a Finns sports team that we know already as the audience that David Kim's brother Peter, played by Joseph Lee, is a big sports fan. We see this; he's a very avid sports fan. I don't know what sport the Finns play. I knew it wasn't football. You were thinking of Miami Dolphins, but we see this sports team come up all the time.
I think it was hockey. It might be hockey.
Yeah, it might be hockey because Game 7 and stuff like that. So we start to see this guy is a big fan of this Finns team, and we see his jacket at the on the driver's side on the bottom of the floor, and that's
and then they find blood in the trunk also.
Yeah.
So that all leads to them thinking that.
So you, the audience, start thinking it's the uncle.
Yeah. Especially when he goes down the text messages that he found on the Facebook page.
Yeah, and you
like,
yeah,
and it's all,
yeah. Go ahead.
And it's all stuff like, we shouldn't do this. Should we do this?
Or I
can't. Your father will kill me.
Yeah, I can't believe we're doing this. My father will kill me. So what we're thinking, the audience here, is the uncle is like a predator, and he's pretty much having sex and sleeping with Margot. So that's what we're thinking of it. So, which makes sense. I mean, it is a valid, it's a valid, thought or a valid point that they make in the film because it could have happened.
Yeah.
We see the discussion between the two characters, Margot and her uncle. We see the text messages saying, she feels uneasy about the situation. She doesn't want her dad to find out. So there's obviously something going on that is alarming enough that she doesn't want her father to know about it. So we see that, and then we see the coat, the jacket on the floor of her car. We see the money, the $2,500 that had been missing from the account that had been withdrawn. We see that in there, and we also see blood in there. So all signs are pointing to it being the uncle. Something is going on with Margot and her uncle. So that's what we're led to believe as the audience throughout the film.
Yep. And then David goes over to Peter's house, sets up a whole bunch of cameras, webcams, stuff like that to record, to catch him in the act.
He wants to interrogate his brother. He wants to find out what exactly happened. He kind of wants to throw it, not kind of out of left field, kind of surprise, almost a surprise attack. His brother pretty much into saying, okay, I know what's going on. I've seen the messages, but he doesn't know anything about it. So he's playing it nonchalant, and kind of just like saying, hey, listen, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, okay. So then he starts reading the chat.
Yeah. He goes, we shouldn't be doing this. Don't tell your dad.
Yeah.
And then you can see him getting more frustrated and more frustrated and more mad and more mad. And um, then they end up having a huge brawl, which knocks over one of the cameras. And then Peter realizes what he ends up saying, it was weed, which plays back to the beginning of the movie.
Goes back to the beginning of the movie. We see that his brother is a stoner, and he was pretty much kind of introducing or kind of being like a dealer to Margot, kind of just like letting her smoke pot and stuff like that. So now we see that is the big thing. It is not the uncle now that we realize now it is not the uncle. The uncle has nothing to do with the disappearance of Margot. We see that they were just meeting up to do a deal, and that was pretty much it. So now as the audience, we're like, okay, so now if it's not the uncle, what the hell's going on? Who knows something here that we don't?
Yeah. Did we skip the scene where David and that one high school teen get in a brawl outside the theater?
I'll set that up real quick. As the movie's progressing, and as David is kind of doing his investigation and stuff like that, we see that there is a boy who has in fact been communicating, I guess, with the daughter Margot. I don't remember. I know the one was
he even said he was like in the Facebook pages when they were doing the big friends on Facebook thing. He said, "Guys, don't worry, she's with me."
Okay. Yeah. Hold on. Oh, what do you want to do, baby?
And when he says that, David goes to find out what he means. We end up in a movie theater, which is shot on a phone camera, and it cuts off. You realize that David in the next scene has a busted up lip. Detective Vic says that he broke the teen's jaw. They got in a huge fight. They ended up in a fist fight in the theater. And then Detective Vic takes him off the case. She says, don't go out and do this by yourself.
Because basically you're doing more harm than good now, pretty much, because of the fact that you got into a fight with a young child. You broke his jaw or something like that. And
yeah.
It's not a good look for you, and it's obviously not a good look for the investigation. So kind of just stay out of it and let her pretty much take it and run with it.
Mm-hmm. So now we go back after the big fight with Peter. Detective Vic calls, and you see that she's been trying to reach him. At one point, she says, "We got him. Answer the phone. Pick up. Pick up." Finally, he does answer the phone. And then you as the audience, and then you see later on that everyone thinks, or everyone knows that Margot is dead. She was murdered by
by this guy,
sex offender.
Yeah, by a sex offender who ends up taking his life after he releases a confession.
Yeah. So you in the audience think the movie's almost over. You're just like, wow, this is going to be a very dark way to end this movie, but something doesn't seem right after,
because the character really isn't involved in the story at all. You don't see much about this guy. So that's why, like, even when I was watching the movie, I said, this guy didn't do it, because this guy has completely just been introduced out of left field to be the killer.
Actually,
not the killer.
I actually thought it was him, to be honest, because they at the beginning of the film when he was doing the research, you see that same photo of her with the ex-convicts, and off to the side you see that same guy that was next to her.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe they could tie it in that way, but
to me, just because of the fact I remember the picture, but I didn't to me, there just wasn't enough credibility. There wasn't enough there for them to warrant having him as the killer. I think that would have been kind of a cop out on their part.
Yeah. And then you see David trying to deal with the fact that his daughter is dead. And then while preparing for the funeral, there's a website called Memorial One that live streams funerals, which I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, I think that is. It pretty much live streams funerals, and I believe they can do donations online. stuff like that to help out with the flowers or the cost of the funeral, I think.
Yeah, and as he's looking on the website trying to send the pictures in to make a video or whatever,
Yeah, like a video collage.
he's going back through the UCAS videos, sees the photo of fish and chips, look over to the side. They have a poster girl, of course, holding the flowers or whatever, try to sell it. And you realize it's the exact same person.
Different pictures, but the same exact girl. And I remember watching that. Chills shoot up my back and arms. I'm like,
yes.
I was like, oh my God, like never in a million years would I have thought we could connect this film like how we're doing it in this film. I'm like, wow, like I instantly had chills.
Yeah, and then what's actually really cool about that is it took my brain a minute to realize, hey, that's the same person in
I
chat.
I pointed out super quickly. Like my wife's like, yeah, you have good facial recognitions, I guess.
Yeah,
because I saw it. I was like, oh my God! I said that's a girl from that's a girl from the funeral home ad, or that's fish and chips. I said
that's fish and chips.
Yeah.
And Daniel, or not Daniel, David finds the number for what's her name? Do you remember?
Whose name?
The actress that does the photos for the memorial.
I forget. She's an actress. So basically, what we see is with doing the investigation, she's pretty much a model for like different, pretty much any type of job.
Tells stock footage that they use for different.
She does. So if she's a flight attendant, she could be a flight attendant. She could be a teacher. She could be a businesswoman. She could be this. She could be that. They use her picture and her image to sell different things. So in this situation, she's selling the funeral aspect of things. She's selling like memorial services and stuff like that.
Yeah. So he tries to call that actress. She ends up saying that no one got in contact with me. The police did not get in contact with me. I'm not a waitress. What are you talking about? Then David starts getting worried, and he starts putting the pieces together. He calls
right there is where we start to see the twist, because of the fact that Deborah Messing already told David's character, Detective Vick has already told David's character, yes, they've contacted the girl. There was no leads there, blah, 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 blah. So when we hear this, then nothing's happened, or, we realize somebody's lying and
something's
up. So that's kind of where we're setting this movie.
Yeah.
That's kind of the direction we're going at the back end of this film.
And then David calls the police department to try to get a hold of Detective Vick, say, maybe my daughter isn't dead. Maybe there's something else going on. Maybe it wasn't him. And they get a dispatch service, and they start talking, and the lady on the other end says that Detective Vick volunteered to take that case. She wasn't assigned to it, but she volunteered to take the case. After trying to, David finds the article that features Vick, and of course the image of the same person that we claimed to have murdered Margot.
Yeah, so that's where we see the infamous photo at the beginning of the film, Deborah Messing's character, Detective Vick, with a bunch of different photos of like these different people in this picture, yeah.
And then realizing that David leaves the service, he sees the live stream happening for his daughter's service, sees that Detective Vick is at the funeral home for the memorial. He gets a hold of the police chief. They go and they arrest Detective Vick. Now, sitting in the interrogation room, and you see it's all done in the camera footage that's usually in an investigation room. You pretty much hear the whole backstory here. You hear that her son, Michael, was fish and chips, had a huge crush on Margot, and used that photo and the fact that that he's a 20-year-old girl on Facebook. She pretty much got catfished.
That, and the reason why is David, or the son, Vic's son, is kind of he's kind of not backward, but he's kind of very shy. He doesn't know how to approach women and stuff like that. So he uses this alter persona to kind of have some kind of connection, to try to connect with her in a different way that he wasn't able to in real life. We also see this because of the fact that in the beginning of the film, my wife pointed this out. At the beginning of the film, when they're going through the address book, they have a number, and it's the number 4, Detective Vic's son, because it says on it, has a big crush on Margot, blah, blah, blah. That ends up coming back again. So that was that little. Because remember, it said things about different people, has allergies, food allergies, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, there's one. It says it is Detective Vic's
Michael.
son, Michael, and it says has had a big crush on Margot since the 4th grade, or blah blah blah. Yeah, that's actually in the film. So that little clue right there is kind of sprinkled in.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah. My wife, like I said, notices a lot of, like, she's really good at the and that's why we wanted to go see it, because there was, with the twist ending. She loves twist end movies, but she didn't really quite figure this out until the end, kind of right when I did. But she did catch that piece. She's really good with that type of information in that film. So then after the film, we started talking about it. She's like, oh yeah, at the beginning of the film, there's that thing with the address book, and it had this kid's name, and it has had a big crush on Margot since the 4th grade. So you've already seen that in there.
Yeah, and what you end up finding out is he wanted to come clean. That separate account that she had from Venmo, I believe it is, she was sending the $2,500 to who she believed was Fish and Chips for her mom's
like funeral expenses.
Feeling guilty, he decides to come clean and tell her what happened. I believe they said he gets in the car. Margot tries to fight back. They end up having a tussle towards the end of the cliff, and he pushes back, and Margot falls off the cliff. So Vic surrenders to police, and she explains all this. Hold on. He calls his mom, and she pretty much helps him do this big elaborate lie of saying either, and you do find out that she's the one who created the fake ID for Margot. She deleted or deactivated the Venmo account that the money was going to go to. She did all of this to protect her son, which goes back to the middle of the movie.
Because I think we find out that he pushed her. I think he pushed her. And that's when he calls in a panic to his mom saying, oh, I did something bad, blah, blah, blah. And again, it goes back to that whole police charity thing where he was getting money from people that, that he was, asking money for. And Deborah Messing again saying that, we as parents cover for our children. And again, that comes full circle now, because Deborah Messing, Detective Vic's character, is in fact trying to cover this up for her son. We find out that she actually wasn't assigned the case; she volunteered for this case, and she obviously, we see that she volunteered the case because she knew they had ulterior motives for this. So this was basically a chance for her to kind of cover up the tracks to make it look like not her son, but somebody else did in fact kidnap or murder Margot.
Yeah, and then she used that inmate to pretty much confess, and then they don't really outright say it, but there's more to suspect that Vic, it was the one who shot that inmate. It wasn't suicide. So she was pretty much setting up the whole thing behind the scenes. Then they go to David asked Vic, is my daughter still alive? And she says no, because there's no way that she would have survived that fall. That's how she came up with the fact that, Margot is dead, because there's no way that she could have survived that fall. And if she did survive that fall, it's been 5 days without water. She's probably dehydrated and dead. But again, goes back, they had to stop the search party due to a gigantic storm. Rain, winds, stuff like that. So Margot had enough water to survive for the 2 days or whatever they said.
Yeah,
Right? It
the
was 2 days.
I think it was 5. I thought it was a little bit more than that. It was more
Yeah,
like
it was 5 days, but they had a 2 day storm, so she had two
she had
days
water for
worth of
2 days.
water.
Yeah.
Huh?
So everything lined up perfectly for her to stay alive. And then, like I said, that's where everything comes together. We get all the answers that we want, and then we see at the end of the film, right at the beginning of the film, we start to see, and this is the transformation of David as a character. We see that he's talking to his daughter and was going to type, "Mom would be proud of you," deletes it,
Yeah,
and then at the end of the film, kind of just talks about with her going to school and stuff like that, and just doing all the things that she's overcome. Mom would be proud of you, and we see him actually send it. So right
send it.
now, so basically, he himself as a character has done a 180. He's kind of changed. He's accepting the fact that they need to talk about his wife. They need to talk about, you know, his wife and her mom, because that she is a vital part of their life, and that's never going to go away. So we start to
And
see that.
then, oh, good.
Yeah, no, God, and that's pretty much the basic gist of the film. We see that his character has changed. He starts to have a better and stronger relationship with his daughter Margot, and all is well in the world again.
Yep. And then a little bit before that, you see somebody on the computer. Doesn't really tell who it is at first. Then you start realizing, oh, it's Margot. She got out of the hospital, and David sends her a photo of her getting out of the hospital, and she responds with, "Ew, Dad, I look gross today."
Yeah, and
And
it's
then
see he makes it the background of his computer,
no, she makes it the background of
or
her
she makes it
computer.
the background of her computer. Yeah, never mind. Yeah,
Yeah, and then you also see that she's applying to music schools. So she keeps refreshing the page. She wants to see if she's going to be accepted into this music school. We can all assume that it's going to be for piano. So her love for piano is back after this whole experience. Anything else
yeah.
you want to add to that?
No, that's pretty much the basic end of the film. I think we've really covered as much as we possibly could. I think
Yeah.
we hit it pretty good. But this is a movie, like I said, it's one of those ones that gets you thinking. It gets you on the edge of your seat for the hour and 42 minutes. You're constantly engaged in this film, and that really says a lot about this film. And as a whole, the movie just works. It's engaging. Your twist and turns with the whole entire film. You're going along with the characters, and that's what works about this film. That's why this film's so engaging. It's such a great film. And like I said, it is one of my favorites of the year so far. I have it in my top 10 as of right now. Where it'll be at the end of the year, I'm hoping it'll stay in the top 10. I don't know, because there's just so much coming out at the back end of the year.
Yeah.
But this movie definitely will be my honorable mention. This movie it does what the other films that did the computer-esque type films, but it made it way more successful, way more engaging, way more just submersive in it. And the movie was just such a great film. Anish Shaganti, I don't really know much about the director. I
He,
just know that the
he was
film.
also a producer for all both Unfriended movies.
Oh
Unfriended,
yeah, so it
Unfriended
would
Dark
make
Web.
sense that on the Unfriended movies.
Yeah, so he was a producer on there. He didn't direct them. This I believe was his first.
Which makes sense because it's shot the same way, so that makes sense that he does
Yeah,
those type of films like that.
yeah. This was his first time directing a movie like this. I believe. I believe
Yeah,
this was his first movie he ever directed because he produced a lot of like he did the Unfriended movies and stuff like that. But I believe this is his first time in the director's chair. Might be wrong. Don't
he's
quote
done
me
a
on
bunch
that.
of shorts. It says
Huh?
he's done a bunch of short films. It says, but
Short film. Yeah.
this is his first feature film. Yeah, and it's very promising as a director. You know what they were able to do with the film. I think, like I said, the movie's very engaging. It's a very good film
Mm-hmm.
overall. I really enjoyed it. So yeah.
Yeah,
And
and what's cool about this is I was watching an interview over on Collider that Perry Nimroff did with him, and the same technique he used to make the web the web browsing or whatever show up on screen, the
Yeah.
Screen Life or whatever. That's an actual app that's free to download for anybody who wants to make short films or
Yeah.
wants to make films like that. He said he made it for free because he wants to get more creative movies out there,
Yeah.
and he
This
wants it
definitely
to
is
be
one of them. Yeah.
free to everybody to use.
Yeah, and it's great because we're starting to see day and age now that you can shoot movies on your phone, like the movie Unsane. Steven Soderbergh shot that movie with Clara Foy strictly on an iPhone 7.
Yeah.
Literally, the phone that I have right here shot and filmed a movie, and it's really truly amazing because when you watch that film, the resolution and everything of the film is really really good, and
Yeah.
it's that we're giving windows, we're giving outlets for future future filmmakers and future movie critics or film makers or whatever that have aspirations of becoming big in
Yeah.
Hollywood. We're giving them the tools to succeed. We're giving them things that they could use for free because most of the people that start out don't have a whole lot of money. So this kind of helps them out, try to get their feet wet. And like I said, Searching was just a well put together movie, very thought. I mean, there was a lot of thought and creativity.
Yes.
All the things that you trace back, it's like, wow, they introduced this into the film because of this and that and this.
Everything
And
ties in, and there's no fat on this movie. Nothing never comes back.
No, everything is justified. Everything is earned in the film, and that's rare because sometimes you find things that they introduce things that don't really need to be interput in a film. But this, it throws everything in, and it includes everything in the end. And that's the great part about it because they did put in Detective Vic's son in the film. You got to see little spurts of him here and there when she was on the webcam with or on the phone chat with David's character. We see him enter in the background and the mom talking to the son. We saw him at the beginning of the film with the address book. So he's obviously somebody who's in the film and can have a motive. And it's nice to see that because you could have copped out and made it that guy.
Yeah.
He was in a picture with Deborah Messing. So I'm glad they didn't go that route. I'm glad they went the route that they did. And I'm glad they didn't kill her. I knew Margot was going to be alive. I didn't think
that was the one that I wasn't sure about, but I'm glad that they kept her alive.
I figured they were going to. They weren't going to go for a grueling ending to a film. I thought for sure that they were going to. The only thing I'll say is they found her awfully quick there at the end of the film. Like as soon as oh, there she is. You know what I mean? It's like, well,
I mean, again, they also set that up because they realized it's the exact same location that Detective Vic X Stoff
was the one that was there. Yeah. That's true. So yeah.
No, it wasn't really that fast because they were like, "Hey, she X'd this off. Let's go check it again." They looked down. They had people sitting out, and then they found her there. Yeah. So everything does tie in at the end.
Yeah, which is really beautiful. And like I said, the film is an absolute must-see for the people that are going to watch this, that have made it through here. They've probably seen the film already.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping nobody that has not seen the movie is watching this because it's not a movie you want to ruin. You have to go see it. And I might even put in your in the video description. I would even timestamp it to where you start where we start the spoiler talk, just to let other people know because I really want people need to see this movie. This movie is really good. And
this is one of the movies that you have to see, whether it's. I wouldn't really say it's a theater movie. I mean, you could watch it anytime, but if you see it in the theaters, it's still a great movie. But just watch it any way you can. This movie is so thought-provoking, gets you guessing on the edge of your seat. You're always guessing with the characters. You're always caring about the family, David's situation, Margot's situation. But yeah, that's about it. I mean, we went through almost the entire movie. But I do want to plug one thing. I'm not sponsored or anything. I wish I was, but I want to give thanks to the AMC A-List Pass for me being able to see this movie. That app is the subscription service is definitely worth it. I'm seeing The Nun Wednesday night, so expect a review for that probably Thursday night. So Russ,
I think MoviePass, even though it is a train wreck right now, MoviePass actually got me this. It was the sponsored movie or the movie that you could go see that night. So my wife and I ended up seeing it, and it was funny because it happened to coincide with AMC's discount night. So it was only $5 anyway. So, but
Yeah.
anytime you can get a free movie, doesn't matter. And especially with this film, I was really excited about it, and such a great film.
All right, so you want to plug anything before we head out, Russ?
Yeah, on YouTube, House Hollywood Reviews. I do movie reviews, trailer reactions, all that fun stuff. I'm going to try to add some more at the back end of the year here. I want to add some more things to my page with movies, maybe retro reviews. I want to do something maybe special for Halloween time. Also, you can find me wherever podcasts are to be had. iTunes. It's called Notorious by Chance. My good friend Chance Ellison, who is now a member of the Schmodown family. Couldn't be more happier for him. Him and I started this inception of a podcast together. We have shot 9 episodes so far at the time of this recording. Basically, get on our Facebook page, find it, vote for what you want us to talk about. Like, we have polls set up every week. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, but we make it as engaging as we can to get other people just to kind of vote whatever they want us to review. So we've reviewed some awful movies, I think, pretty much all bad movies, I think, for the most part. Minus How to Train Your Dragons. But yeah, we've reviewed some bad movies, but we're not afraid to go in and deep dive talk about them. But yeah, definitely check that out. You can find that wherever podcasts are to be had. Also,
are you guys thinking about doing video form of that show one day?
Yeah. Chance and I are going to do that on Multiplex Entertainment. I think at the beginning of the month, beginning here of October, we are going to go ahead and do a live discussion, us talking. The things that you hear on audio on podcasts, you're going to be able to actually view it and watch it in live time.
That's awesome.
Which is really great because I think that, just the two of us together, I think we really bounce a lot of, talk off of each other. And I think we just have that good chemistry when we're talking and discussing movies. So I think that in itself is, a great thing. And I'm really glad that we're able to get this podcast moving. It's something I've been wanting to do forever. I'm just glad that I found the right person to kind of do it with. I've always wanted to do it by myself, but I was like, you know what? We were, movie trivia buddies. So I'm like, you know what? We got to do this together. So I'm glad that, it's getting good. A lot of people are enjoying it, and we just trying to put out the content that we can put out. Other things to plug real quick. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Stardust, Letterbox, HH Wood Reviews. I do all sorts of fun stuff. So yeah, check it out.
All right. Awesome, man. And again, check out Notorious by Chance, a very fun, entertaining podcast. I actually love the one on Jack and Jill, by the way, because that movie is horrendous, and you guys really dig it up. Thanks for the memories.
Yeah, you have to, because and that's the thing.
A special guest.
Yeah, it's my daughter. So you say hi to everybody.
Hi. Aw.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where, we're not afraid to, talk about these movies. Yeah, I didn't want Jack and Jill to win, but Jack and Jill won. Movies that, we, especially, and then that's the other thing. We wanted to talk about 21 Jump Street. All of a sudden, I'll get you next. All of a sudden, Billy Madison ends up winning Best Back to School Film. So, you never know what's going to happen. We're getting more and more people voting each week, which is great. Yeah. And it's just fun. It's just fun that we just want to talk movies, man. We just want to talk and discuss all sorts of films, and that's the beauty about the podcast. That's the beauty about your show. Beauty about my channel. I just want to talk about movies.
Yeah, definitely. We're all movie fans here. All right. So if you guys enjoyed this review, hit that like button, subscribe to Film Nerd TV below. A new episode of the Nerd List is coming out next week, and we are doing the best book to movie adaptation. So that should be very interesting conversation. So check that out. Check out the Nerd List and Nerd News playlist, and hit that bell icon and join the Nerd Squad today. All right, guys. I'm Hunter. That's Russ. We'll see you guys soon. Peace.
Yeah, come here.